What's going on, Sens fans? Welcome back to another post-game coverage with Jack and myself. Not a terrible game against the Edmonton Oilers tonight. It's March 9th, or March 8th, I guess, was the game. And it was a 3-2 loss. We did a great job shutting down McDavid and Draisaitl. They still got some points up on the board, but...
Got all 3 points.
Yeah. Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they did too.
Still a good job, though. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. They could have had, especially if it wasn't for Joey Decord tonight, they could have had a lot of goals.
No, Decord was absolutely on fire. And first comment here from Natty again, launch the PP into the sun. The power play again, just losing in momentum. And I think they got messed up with Stützle when he got that high stick. He had to go off.
Yeah.
I think that kind of messed up everything on the breakout and stuff. But, I think that was a fantastic effort considering they just played last night into a shootout. So it was a long game. I thought the third period was really good. Like they didn't just keel over because the second and first weren't great. That was fun to watch, the third period. We'll take losses like that any day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And in games that you have, like, I'm looking now, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, 25 minutes and 24 minutes.
That's insane for forwards. It's crazy.
Two different forwards on your team, two of the best players in the world, and we held that team to 3 goals. Yeah.
So we'll get into it later, but McDavid played 2 less seconds than Thomas Chabot tonight. How crazy is that?
Wow.
Basically on the ice, though. Chabot was pretty matched up against him for the whole game, pretty much.
Yep.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah. It is.
And the Oilers won by 1 goal, but that's. They had McDavid and Draisaitl out there in the last minute, and they did a pretty good job, I think, but they didn't do much of anything in that third period.
Yeah. So,
we can start with the first goal by Dadonov. That was an interesting play. It started with Chabot, not even him getting it down to Dadonov, but Chabot moved up ice and forechecked pretty much on his own. And created all the space and stuff. And I think Chabot has his moments where he makes a bad pass or two, but someone said it too, Carlson was the same way, and still, now it's even worse, but he was the same way for his time in Ottawa, so we should come to expect that. I think Chabot had a great game again. Got hemmed in a couple times by that top line of the Oilers, but he's probably the only one who can match McDavid's footwork, and I don't think, other than that breakaway at the end for McDavid, he didn't really have any extreme rush chances. So I think the Sens did, like you said, a good job of containing him, and Chabot was pretty instrumental in that.
Yeah, he was. He played one of his better defensive games. In the first period and a half, I'd say, he was kind of looking a little sloppy, like we're kind of used to seeing over the last couple of games.
Yeah.
But he picked it up. He made some great defensive decisions in that third period, and making the rush too as well.
Yeah, so I think the whole decor last couple of games has looked really good. And I liked Goodbranson again tonight a lot. I thought that hit on Norris, the Sens were going to get a power play, but I don't mind Goodbranson stepping in there and just not even just sticking up for Norris, but just absolutely pummeling Jujhar Khaira.
Yeah, so I do want to talk about that for a bit, because there's the knee-on-knee trip on Josh Norris. It's the second one that we've seen in as many games and as many nights, put it that way. But so they were getting called on the trip, and so Goodbranson skates into the zone following the play, because the puck, that's where the puck was going, and he goes up to Jujhar Khaira, and they both drop the gloves. Eric Goodbranson sits in the box for 17 minutes after that. Yeah, because he got the extra 2 for instigating and 10 for the misconduct.
Yeah.
So, in my knowledge, and I used to be a referee, it might be different in minor hockey, below junior, but instigating is just when you drop the gloves and the other guy doesn't, or at least you start throwing punches before that guy's ready.
Yeah,
they both drop the gloves.
I saw some people talking about, if it's technically he is instigating, but it needs to be called all the time. It's kind of like the embellishment rule, where it's how can you call the embellishment and the actual penalty?
Yep.
So, I I didn't think it was instigating because he wasn't like chasing him around the ice or anything. Definitely an interesting call to make. Um, I wasn't. I don't know. I mean, I think for the most part, people were pretty like okay with Goodbranson doing that. It's the second time he's done it in the last few games where it's negated a penalty. I still don't have a problem with it. That's pretty much why he's there. And aside from that fact, he had one of his best games as a Senator this tonight. I thought he was just sound defensively, and a lot of it had to do with Brandstrom, who, again, Brandstrom's best game by far. And what a turn of events from last night where we thought he was going to be scratched.
Yeah.
And he's 10 seconds away from 20 minutes tonight. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Great game for him.
Yeah, he drove a lot of play tonight. And I'm going to go back to saying it, put him on the top power play unit.
I would like to see that.
Just because he's getting a lot of confidence, and we saw that a lot tonight. He was just firing pucks left and right. So
yeah, that'll be a bold move, I think, for the coaches to make. But I mean, not even bold, but just it'll. I don't know. I don't think it'll make Shabbat like disgruntled or anything. I just think it would signify like, okay, like Brandstrom's here and he's here to stay. So you need to. We're just going to spread it out a little bit. I would I mean, tonight he should have been out there. I think he had that shift where they were buzzing, and then Shabbat. Not that Shabbat killed the power play, but yeah, the power play definitely needs some work. It looked so good against Calgary in those first few games at home, eh?
Yeah,
and
it really did.
Taking a back seat lately, so that's not a good thing to see. The other thing I wanted to mention is the forward lines were put in an absolute blender tonight, which is good because it worked in the third period. You pretty much had Nick Paul and Dzingel flip in the top 9, and then they moved those middle 2 lines around. Like Kachuk, Tierney, and Brown stayed together, which not happy with, but I think they had Stutzel with White and Dadonov, which is nice, and then they had Norris, Batherson, and Dzingel, which is, I think, why not, right? You've got a lot of weapons, a lot of potential changes you can make. Might as well go for it.
Yeah, and that's the definition of spread the wealth. Like, we
Absolutely.
have it, use it.
Yeah. One thing, or another thing, I guess, I feel like the term, it's a back-to-back, and they're not, like, it's tough for them to, like, you shouldn't expect a win on a back-to-back night, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, a big deal is made of it. Obviously, if Joey Daccord doesn't play so well, which we also should talk about, but if he doesn't play that well, then that doesn't happen at all. Like, this game would have been over in the first period.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that third period was a great third period considering that they're on a back-to-back with travel, too, right? So that's really encouraging. And like I said, losses like this I will take any day of the week.
Yeah, it by far was not our worst loss of the season. And like Joey Daccord finished tonight with a .919 save percentage. That's perfect.
Yeah, he was great.
As our backup, like, there's so much confidence with our team playing in front of him that I don't know. It's hard because I'm thinking way ahead, but about the expansion draft again. Like,
yeah, people were talking about that.
Yeah, I don't know what the call is there.
Well, I think just given how inconsistent Murray's been, I feel like, and Dacord's record isn't going to be indicative of how he's played. He's 0-2 now, but he's been the best. Like, he's shown the most consistent goaltending all season for the Sens.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't. I would protect Daccord, and I think the Sens would be dumb not to.
Yeah.
Just based on Murray's contract of 3 more years after this, and just on how inconsistent he was, I don't think they'd take him. Yeah. There's got to be other goalie options around the league. I think they'll look at. I'm getting a little carried away here, but there's a team that I was looking at recently that it's Florida, like with Bobrovsky and Drieger. Yeah. They're going to take one of those two, right? So I don't know if the Sens should gamble on Daccord because he's a young piece of this franchise moving forward. That being said, Murray's only 26 years old too. He feels like he is a veteran just based on the 2 cups, but I think Daccord is making a case for himself to either A, be protected by the Sens or be picked up by Seattle, one or the other.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, Florida's got a great tandem right now.
Yeah.
Vegas has Leonard and Fleury, so they got to do something there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There's a lot of other options out there.
yeah, like even in Arizona, they have Ranta and Kemper. So
Yep.
yeah, there's just so many better options than Murray or Decord. But I think you do protect Decord just because he'd be more likely to be picked up as a third string rather than Murray picked up as a starter. So
Yeah, good point. And I think I'm pretty confident that they would protect the cord. Just the only thing that would make me a little bit nervous about it is they've had recently too this history of poor asset management.
yeah,
With the Balsers thing, I think he had a point or two tonight in San Jose. So
yeah,
that's aside from the fact, but I would be pretty confident. But that's, I guess, I mean, this is the halfway point of the season. They're officially halfway through now.
yeah.
It's not that far away, but at the same time it is. So we can worry about that later. But yeah, he was fantastic tonight. He a couple robbery saves. I think Koskinen on the other side of things.
Yep.
He's like in the spotlight in Edmonton. Mike Smith has played a lot better than him so far, and they've kind of last year, anyways. They had the 1B or 1A 1B approach, and this year they're trying to do the same thing, but Smith started to take over. So he played well in the third, though. Koskinen. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. So they don't win that game if he isn't sitting or standing on his head there at the end. So good on him. And I think you got 2 more games against the Oilers this week. It'll be interesting to see what they do goaltending wise against them.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, Edmonton is almost notorious for their inconsistent goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to come into fruition with their team in general over the last decade. So yeah, and losing out on the Markstrom sweepstakes really hurt them. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so we mentioned the Dadonov goal, how it was just kind of a fluke, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like every other goal Evgeny Dadonov has scored this year.
Honestly, it feels like that.
Yeah, I mean, assisted from Shabbat and Zaitsev. It wasn't a pretty play or anything. It was 50 seconds into the game, and it shouldn't have gone in, but it did. But good on him for seeing the open slot in Koskinen and finding the back of the net.
I mean, that's what snipers do. They shoot and the puck goes in one way or the other. And I was kind of thinking about this because, we'll get into Stutzel's goal soon, but I feel like every goal Stutzel scored has been like a highlight reel almost. Like just,
yeah,
he hasn't gotten those bounces on the shots and stuff, and he doesn't shoot a lot. I mean, tonight he has 5 shots, but he doesn't seem to shoot the puck very often.
Yeah.
So, but Dadonov, on the other hand, most of his goals, aside from that breakaway one, I'd say, against like those 2 in Toronto and that big comeback, I think other than those 2, they're all kind of fluky, it feels like. So it's just interesting, but I mean, hey, they don't ask how, right? So
yeah, really
take it. He's got goals and 2 goals in his last 3 games now, I think.
Yep.
So good on him, and yeah, that's what they need from him moving forward. He's streaky.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we move on to Tim Stützle, who just scored a beautiful goal. Just right over the shoulder, bar down. And like you said, it's just everything you expect from Stützle with his skill set. And especially after what we saw last night in the shootout. Yeah, use those skills, man.
So yeah, I mean, the shootout goal was just top notch, but the thing with him, the last couple games in Calgary, he's struggled, and it's his first goal in 9 games. Yep. But what I like about DJ Smith, and I feel like coaches just never get credit anytime. You got to give him credit tonight, especially for the way he was throwing out his players. Like, he knows when his team is doing well, and he knows how to motivate his young guys, I feel like. And, as soon as Stützle scores that goal, he's out double shifting the third period. That's just stuff like that. Not that Smith is only rewarding that kind of behavior or that kind of production. But it just tells the kid, like, hey, you keep doing it, like, just keep it up, and like it instills confidence in him that his work isn't going unnoticed. And it was one of his better games of the year tonight, so that was great to see. And the release was great. There's been so many times this year where he's passed before, and I thought, like, just shoot the puck.
Yeah, really though.
And that's one of them too, and he finally shot it.
Yeah, and like we'll get into it a little bit later when we talk more specifics, but he did the exact same thing with Eric Brandstrom tonight. Like, after 5.5 minutes less than last night, coming into this game, nobody even expected him to play today, let alone play 20 minutes. So he came out in the first period and showed that he deserves ice time. So
I thought he was so good, and
he was
just, and especially in that third period, he's just mixing it up with McDavid too.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe not as drastically, but moving forward, if you can take 2 or 3 minutes away from Shabbat and just tag them onto Brandstrom, that's solid. That's what you want moving forward. And I don't want this to be the case, but I really feel like Dorion had a conversation with Smith last night or today about Brandstrom's deployment. I honestly feel like Wolanin would have been in tonight in place of Brandstrom. I think the fact that he's out there and like there's that connection where Dorion said it was his proudest day as GM to get this player because he's a great player, right?
Yeah.
There's something going on behind the scenes, I feel like, because how does a guy go from playing only 5 minutes to going and playing 20 minutes the next night? It just doesn't. It's just strange. But I mean, hey, if that's Dorion's job, right? Like Smith is supposed to play the players the way they're deployed, and he did that tonight. So kudos to him. I do feel like Goodbranson getting that being off for basically the whole first period helped Brandstrom a little bit because he got some PK time. Then he just started building his game. If he was having a rough night, it's a different story. But he was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I think Erik Brandstrom showed that he deserves more ice time.
Yeah.
But yeah, something must have happened behind the scene, especially from DJ's perspective. Like, you just don't make that decision overnight. And I know their defensive coach, he makes a lot of those decisions, and DJ Smith made a nod to that in the post-game media last night.
Yeah.
But yeah, something must have happened, and there was definitely a conversation that was had. So.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I mean, it worked. So there you go, Dorion. Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, other than that, like, it wasn't a very eventful game, honestly. It was pretty sloppy for the first 2 periods, and then both teams, Ottawa put a lot of pressure on in the third, and Edmonton tightened up a lot in the third. One thing I did notice about Edmonton is throughout all the games we've seen, I've kind of thought that Tyson Barrie was a good fit in Edmonton. But he's not very good defensively at all. Like, I know he's an offensive defenseman, but I never realized how bad that was until tonight.
I think he's fit in a lot there, like a lot better in Edmonton than he did in Toronto. Yeah. He complements, I guess, their top players better than he did in Toronto. But yeah, he's going to get exposed defensively. I think Nurse is a problem. He looks really good back there. Just a big body. It's tough for the Oilers to kind of judge them this season because they're missing their top defenseman.
Yeah.
So that's difficult, I guess, but we're going to get a good look at them in the next 2 games as well. And I don't think that they're necessarily a better team than the Sens, but they just have 2 superstars right now. And it's kind of like if you waited a couple of years and see what Stützle is, and then even Tkachuk, you just wait a couple of years and see what they are, and then put them on this team. So it'll be cool to see going forward. I fully expect if McDavid and Draisaitl are together on the same line, I don't think they're going to do that again because the rest of the team was dead. But if they do, then the Sens can't handle them, and that was proven. Like, they proved that this game, except for the third period, which is you think that they were sitting back a little bit, or is it the fact that the Sens actually stepped up? I think it's a mix of both. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to the games. Yeah,
and like another thing, you look at Thomas Chabot when he plays 26, 27 minutes a night. You're kind of thinking, oh, well, we should probably get some defensemen to let his workload off a bit. They have 2 forwards playing as much as Thomas Chabot does.
It's nuts.
Like, they don't have a team around them. Like, I'm looking, obviously they have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and some young guys like Puljujarvi and Yamamoto, but Tyler Ennis, Alex Chiasson, James Neal, Gaetan Haas, Devin Shore, Jujhar Khaira, and Kyle Turris. Like,
so I will say, I do think that the Oilers have good depth. Just the depth is kind of neutralized when you're playing 2 people for more than 25 minutes a night. That's almost half the game that the 2 forwards are on the ice, which is just crazy. But sorry, I looked up defensive scoring leaders this season because Chabot got a couple points. He is tied for 5th now. Which is good because he has been racking up the points recently in the last month. And he's only, I mean, 4-5 back of the lead.
Yeah.
Not that out of reach. Drew Doughty up there. Little bounce back season for Doughty.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's tied with Doughty, Morgan Riley, and that's it. I don't know if Barry got some points tonight. He might have, but yeah.
Yeah.
So 19
Thomas
points for
Chabot.
Chabot.
Yeah. And in 28 games, like he's on pace for 38 points. That's not bad.
No. I feel like he's been getting a lot of flack this season, and I mean, I can point out in my own, like, off the top of my head, I can think of times where he messed up tonight, but with what he brings offensively, I think I'll take that any day. And especially if Brandstrom's playing like that. Brandstrom was so good defensively tonight. It's crazy.
Yeah. And like that's another thing worth noting. Yeah, he made a lot of mistakes tonight. But the fact that he's playing 25 minutes against Draisaitl and McDavid for 25 minutes, like obviously he wasn't on the ice every time they were, but he's playing hard minutes against tough guys, and it looks so easy. Like Draisaitl and McDavid make it look so easy that it makes it not look foolish. And I can't think of any examples that it was specifically them, but like anybody can look horrible defensively when they're on the ice. So
yeah, all things considered, a pretty good game, and it's been a good stretch of games against Edmonton, even though they're 5-0 against the Sens.
Yeah.
Other than those first two games, it's been pretty solid.
Yeah, they've been competitive games for sure. And like we kept Draisaitl and McDavid scoreless after the last one, so
yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of what I'm disappointed in tonight. Not that it was, I mean, it feels like a little bit nitpicking, I guess, but I was a little disappointed in Tkachuk, I felt like. And I mean, he still had 5 shots and 4 hits, but I just feel like with Tierney and Brown, he's neutralized. And I do respect that he's pretty solid defensively as a forward. So that's a good defensive line. I just feel like he's limited creatively on that in that group. I'm a little. It's tough because Norris, Batherson, and Stützle all look fantastic tonight.
Yeah,
you just need to find that extra stuff for Tkachuk.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people looking at just flip Tkachuk and Paul, and I think that's a good idea. Like put White and Dadonov up on the first line with Tkachuk, because like White and Dadonov proved that they can be on a good defensive line, and obviously we know Paul Tierney and Brown can play together. They looked great last year. So yeah, try and get some offense going up in that top 6.
Yeah, and it's just more like it's more firepower, I guess, too. And I'm sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit, but that line is good. Like I don't mind Tierney, Brown, and Tkachuk to get, like, they still created stuff tonight, but again, Tierney, like, will lead this into faceoffs. Tierney had another abysmal night, which the whole team did. They were brutal on the draws. So if Tierney's not going to win the draw, then they're not possession. They feel like they're chasing, and Kachuk's not a great skater, so it's going to hurt him.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see him with Dadonov just full, like, on 5-on-5, because Dadonov plays the right side. And that would be flipping with Paul, so maybe eventually. Sorry, I remember what I was going to say. The late night, it'll be interesting to see the lines. I don't know if they're practicing tomorrow, but whenever they do again, a morning skate, because they were put in a blender tonight. Like everyone was playing with new people, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see that. And if they're just shaking everything up, I agree. I'd throw Brandstrom right on that top unit. Why not?
Yep. And like you mentioned it before that we saw Tim Stützle being double shifted and everything. And during that, I noticed, like you said, Dzingel on a line with Norris and Batherson. That's a perfect fit in my opinion. Like Stützle and Batherson have looked so good together, but Dzingel is like almost the same player as Stützle almost, but just isn't quite up there in the skill. But he can show it, like he has. So I think
Yeah, it's
giving him
not.
that opportunity to play in that top six with offensive guys, 100%.
It's not like he's gonna lose. Like they're losing speed by putting Dzingel out there. He's, if anything, he's faster than Stützle at the moment. But
Yeah,
I agree. I think it's a good fit, and I think, I mean, as much as we love Nick Paul, I think Dzingel's more of a top 9 guy than Paul is, and
yeah,
Paul can play the same game he plays, but just on that fourth line and the penalty kill.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the lines going forward, and it'll be good to see Stützle because he needs to build off this game because this was a big one for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He seemed to get up for these Edmonton games with Draisaitl. I think there's a little bit of a competition there, but
He wants to show off.
Yeah, exactly. So, which I love. Yeah, so I don't really have much else, to be honest.
No, I don't either. So we can kind of jump into our 3 stars here. You want to start us off?
You can go right ahead, just because I feel like we're gonna take each other's. So you go first.
All right. My 3rd star, I'm gonna give it to Nikita Zaitsev. Actually,
All right.
he until the 3rd period, he was leading in ice time on the defense, and he just looked so sound tonight. He made a lot of physical plays, and I feel like I said the exact same thing last night. He made a lot of physical plays and was able to jump up in the offense when need be. His stats, he didn't actually have any shots, but he had 2 hits and 3 blocks. And I feel like he made a lot more blocks than 3, but yeah, I just feel like Nikita Zaitsev, again, has played a very good game. And whether that be the Thomas Chabot effect or not, he's looking good. So
he's comfortable with Chabot.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now I don't have enough room for the rest of my stars. I'll give my 2nd star to Tim Stützle, I guess. He got a beautiful goal, like we talked about. 5 shots, which is just incredible out of him, and even 3 hits. Like, we don't see that from Tim Stützle very often. So he's just played an outstanding game, one of his best of the season. And yeah, he was just everywhere and earned those double shifts. And for my 1st star, I'm going to give it to 2 people just because I ran out of room. I'll give it to Eric Branstrom and Joey Decord. So, they just both played incredible games tonight.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, my 3 are pretty similar, but I'll try and share some love to some other people. I'll go Decord number 3, just to because he was fantastic. He made the saves he was expected to, plus more. And the goals that were scored on him, I think that Draisaitl one is the only one he probably should have had.
Yep.
And he seems like, I mean, his media availability, I don't know if he's been available to the media tonight, but he's usually pretty honest and competitive, pretty genuine answers. So I'm sure he'll tell you, I just needed to make those saves, and that's great. I think 2nd star, I'm going to go Stützle as well. I just loved the way he responded almost to his goal, which sounds weird to say, but just the way he bounced back and was able to not only take over the game, but you could just see the confidence, and that's what the star players get, right? Once they score, they just get that confidence ability. I just can't fathom that there were people who were saying he should go down to the AHL to play to develop better. Because yes, he's struggling analytically in his own end, but that 3rd period tonight is exactly why he shouldn't be, because he's getting that confidence in the NHL, and it'll only continue to grow.
Yeah.
And then my 1st star, I'm just gonna go Branstrom again. I didn't change my stars at all, but that Branstrom, and it's kind of timely too, because Mark Stone's gonna be a guest on Spit and Chicklets tomorrow.
Yep.
For their episode, I guess it's dropping today at some point, but on Tuesday. So I'm gonna listen to that, and I'm expecting there's gonna be some questions about Ottawa, and it's just gonna make it a little bit more painful. So having Branstrom have that performance tonight just kind of solidifies what he's going to bring to this team. It wasn't that he was making crazy dekes and sprawling out to block shot. He was just playing a sound defensive game that made him effective. So yeah, that's my 1st star, and he's my 1st star for having a pretty perfect game, to be honest. I'm looking right now, and credited giveaways. The Sens had on the back end, anyways. They had 4 credited giveaways.
Yep.
And Goodbranson had 0, and Brandstrom also had 0. So that pairing was really good. They seem to be getting comfortable, just like Shabbat and Zaitsev.
Yeah.
So Eric Brandstrom's my first star.
Yeah. And I'm actually just looking now. Goodbranson, I mean, yeah, 0 giveaways, but 14 minutes, but he had a whole period off.
Yeah.
Wow. And they look really good. So this might be a hard one, might not be, but who needs to be better?
I don't have anyone actually to think about right now. I don't know if you do.
I really don't.
I'll go with just the middle of the ice, because one person was over 50% on faceoffs tonight, and it was Brady Tkachuk,
who took 4.
Right.
Yeah.
You got Colin White, who won 7, lost 8. Chris Tierney won 7, lost 12.
Yep.
Nick Paul won 1 faceoff and lost 3, and then Norris won 3 and lost 5.
Yep.
Just a brutal night in the circle. And Gord Miller mentioned it on the broadcast too. Like I think midway through the second or the third, I can't remember, the Oilers were up 60%.
Yeah, that was at the beginning of the third, and I don't think Ottawa won many faceoffs in that area. So,
no,
in the third period.
I'm looking at the Oilers right now. Like Draisaitl 61%, McDavid 70%, and they're both on the ice at the same time, right? So,
yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, and Nugent Hopkins 75%. So they're obviously older players, but a guy like Chris Tierney, I'm looking to him to win faceoffs, and I'm actually going to check what his stats are this season on the draws. I'm imagining it's around 40%.
Yeah, somewhere between 40 and no higher than 45. But yeah, this whole team, overall, pretty consistent on the face-off dot, right around the 50% mark.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, yeah, Tierney's at 47.8% this season.
40.7%?
47.8.
That's still not very good, even when you think about how many games.
Yeah,
I guess.
But yeah, definitely a lot better than I thought it was. But yeah, the whole center, you're right, needs to be better. And I'll just agree with you on that, because I really, individually, I don't think anybody had a bad game tonight. So
yeah, I feel like if they didn't come out in the third and play that way, it would have been easy to pick someone.
Yeah.
But the third period it's weird, because they almost didn't deserve to win based on their third period against Calgary last night.
Yeah.
In the shootout loss, because they blew the lead.
Yeah.
But if you kind of just flip those, then it's like, okay, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So it kind of replaces that. They don't come out with any points tonight, which is unfortunate, but that's not really what the season is about. Let's be real.
Yeah. This is a development season, whether anybody wants to admit it or not. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. You?
I got nothing.
Awesome. So we'll see you all Wednesday night. It's a bit of an earlier game, so that's good. Better than doing this at 1:00 in the morning on the East Coast. So look forward to doing that one, and hopefully we come out with a better win. So